Good morning, YouTube. It is 6 a.m. in the great state of Texas, and we're doing another bonus project today. So that's 2 weeks in a row, 2 Fridays in a row, where we have put out an extra bonus content. I'm trying to get rid of all this scrap wood that I have laying around my workshop before the summer hits. So all we have here are some simple 2x4 pieces of pine that have just been literally laying in the garage for literally probably over a year. And finally I got around to doing something with them and decided, you know what, instead of just throwing these out, we need to try to make something creative with them. So all we're doing here is we're cutting up some cubes and some blocks. We're going to get these all glued up together. I'm going to try not to cut my fingers off on the miter saw and do a glue up. So if you guys went back and watched my other video, I recently got a jointer, so everything is already nice and flush. I used these pine boards as an example of how to use that jointer. So here you can see me just gluing things up, struggling a little bit, making a mess all over the table, and it's going to get worse because here in just a second I'm going to try to actually use like the vice grips to put all of this together, and it does not go the way that I'd imagine, because you can never have too many clamps. But it's always important to maybe use some common sense when doing this. So here I am attempting to do it. I had to come back, take all of that off, and I didn't put that on camera, but this is what it looked like for the final clamp up, I guess. And everything is certain ways. I got every clamp in my workshop almost attached to these little blocks here, and I'm going to leave that open or leave that on for about 24 hours and then come back and put it on the lathe. So 24 hours later, this is kind of what it looks like. You can see me on the struggle bus here trying to take all of these off, and I'm not a good woodworker. I do not take care of my clamps very well. There is glue, there is epoxy, so trying to take them off and unclamping them is a bit of a struggle sometimes. So I was like, all right, we got that off. Cool looking, just block of wood here. And now we're going to put the faceplate on. And I was kind of worried initially that I hadn't let this set up long enough, but it's Gorilla Glue. If you let that stuff set up for about 24 hours, it's guaranteed to hold together. However, I was kind of concerned that the glue up didn't go as smoothly as I wanted it to. So I was concerned that something was going to fly off the lathe and hit me. But this is the part that I'm really concerned about. So putting the faceplate on, gotten better about that. Drill pilot holes and take your time when doing this part. So nothing cracked, even better. So once we got that done, now we can throw this bad boy onto the lathe and get this turned down into something. So when I started this project, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, because pine is very boring. I love working with pine. Pine is my favorite wood to work with because it is so soft. It is literally like wood turning butter, because it just melts on the chisels. There's not a lot of chatter, but granted, it doesn't look the most aesthetically pleasing when you're actually working with it in the end. So I knew I had an idea of like the design I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't going to do a lid with this one. I was just going to try to turn it into a cylinder, gouge it, and then add a little bit of decorative aesthetic to it, like I've done so in the past. So this part went really easy. I'm starting and stopping the lathe just to make sure that there's no giant cracks in between, and there's a little bit of gaps between each piece of blocks that's on here, and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not overdoing it as far as like the gouging portion. But this is probably one of my favorite shots right here, just eating away at that. No issues. The chisels they're sharp, but they're not as sharp as they could be. But they just had no problem eating through all of that. And you can see here, just smooth as butter, going through all that pine, starting and stopping the lathe to kind of see where we're at. So then once I got that finished, now we're just going to start making the lip of the bowl. And then this is where the mortise is obviously going to go. But had a lot of material left to work with, not a whole lot of issues up to this point. And now we're just trying to make that concave bottom here and just keeping everything together, all the sawdust everywhere. But pine smells really good. That's why they make pine saw, because it smells good. But my workshop smells like a combination of West Texas dirt and sawdust, which doesn't smell too good. But this part took no time at all. I think from start to finish, this might have taken me maybe 2 hours, and the part that's coming up was probably the longest portion of this. But this went fairly smooth. Now all we're going to do is just make a mortise, and this literally took like something like 47 seconds. It did not take very long at all, and then just came back and hit it with the square carbide tool. No problem whatsoever, just eating through there. And I got a little too ambitious with that mortise because it ended up being a lot larger than I needed it to be, so I was worried that the chuck jaws weren't going to attach very well. But I figured it'd be okay, and we'd just play through it. So now we're just taking the faceplate off, and then we're just going to go ahead and inspect our wood here. Looks good. Going to go ahead and throw that on the chuck, and then we're going to get everything into a nice cylinder and then start the gouging portion of it. So this part, no issues right here. Everything's nice and smooth still. And then I'm like, okay, cool. That'll work for me. So the gouging part, this part took maybe 10 minutes total, but it's just eating away on the chisel there. I used mostly the smaller carbide tool, the medium-sized carbide tool, the round head, and just didn't have a lot of issue with it. Just ate through it and then came back. Hit it with a square carbide tool to finish it off, but you can just see all those shavings just flying out of there. No problems. You should go back and watch some of my old videos that I used to do. I would try to do this, and like literally the blink would jump off the chuck jaws, and it was hilarious. I found it very aggravating, but being a lot better than I was when I first started, I've come a long way. So don't worry, nothing flies off the lathe. But at this point, we're just gouging how far we want the bowl to go, as deep as we possibly can, and trying to preserve the lip of the bowl to make sure nothing kind of just cracks or shatters on the side of it, because sometimes the thinness of the wall of the bowl will cause you to have a catastrophic failure, but nothing like that on this one. And here's just a different angle of us just finishing up the bottom and then just working our way to the bottom, not punching through to the mortise. But no issues right there. Pretty happy with where we're at, just giving it a feel and starting to stop in the lathe and then just getting everything nice and even the way that we want to. And then we can start the fun part, which everybody knows if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time. My favorite thing to do, of course, is sanding. But we'll get to that part in just a minute. So this is what all the shavings look like coming off the lathe. Worked off a lot of that material. Got to a nice depth. The lip of the bowl looks nice. Grain of the wood doesn't look too bad. You can see that there's still separate pieces, but don't worry. We're going to come back and fix that a little bit. So that's all the shavings, and I got to clean all this up before we start to the next part, which is sanding. So did not spend a lot of time sanding. We went from 50 grit to 80 grit, and we just wanted to smooth everything out as much as possible before we started the other portion of it. But did not spend a lot of time doing that. So I love burning pine. There is, I'll get comments of don't burn the pine, just leave it alone. But I love to do this, and this is my channel, and I'll do what I want, and I appreciate the comments, but you got to do something to this pine because it just looks boring if you don't do anything to it. But I've burnt plenty of bowls in the past, and this is just fun to do, but we're going to come back and add just a little aesthetic to it, to kind of add something to it, instead of just having just a regular burnt pine bowl that I've done. So months and months and months ago, maybe like over half a year ago, I tried to make something similar to this, and I failed. So I knew that I wanted to come back with my Dremel and then just start doing like these small little craters just to add like a different piece to it. And I actually got this off of Blacktail Studio. Cam, he did a different video where he made a table, and he kind of just took a larger Dremel tool and made these cool little craters. So that's kind of where I got the idea from. So if you're really interested, go watch Blacktail Studios. That guy is amazing and a real woodworker, and he makes amazing things. But I just wanted to come back and hit it with the Dremel and just do these cool little craters and make this kind of cool texture to it. And I really took my time with this one. If you went back and watched my old video of wood turning garbage, you could just see how different the videos are, because that one obviously wasn't as aesthetically pleasing as this one. I think this one turned out a lot better, and I'm actually going to come back and do another version of this bowl, because you're just coming back and hitting up the parts that we missed. But this is a really cool look. I want to do a table like this in the future, but I really liked how this looked. I think it gave the bowl a little something extra, and it makes that pine just a little bit more pleasing to the eye when you add something to it. And it just takes forever to do this. I think this took like maybe an hour total between all the pieces that we missed, stopping and starting, having to vacuum up all those little pieces because the dust and the dirt gets into all these little craters. So here we are, just hitting it with a shop vac and suctioning out all those parts. But I really like this look. I think that adds a lot to it. It's a burnt pine bowl, but it has a little something extra to it. And here we are, just coming outside, and we're just going to hit it with some lacquer. I went ahead and wiped it down before I did this part, and you didn't see that on the video. But just coming back, hitting it with some lacquer, trying not to inhale those fumes, and then coming back and then doing a couple of layers. But this is what the bowl looks like after all of that. Love how this turned out. Looks really, really good. This could have been a weekly video where we put this out on the main feed on Sundays, but as a bonus, I think this looks really good. We are definitely going to come back and do another project like this in the future. Love how this turned out. Looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks a lot better than my previous attempt. So hope you liked it. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you on Sunday. Peace. All right, so project is done, and this guy looks a lot cooler with these little pimples or indentations that I put on this thing. So if you go back a couple of months ago, I did a video called wood turning trash or something like that, garbage. This is kind of a spin-off of that, but I think I learned from my previous mistake, and it looks a lot cooler. So you can see the burnt ends. I left the bottom all by itself. Didn't do anything there, and then just cool looking rotation. Didn't burn the inside of it, just wanted to do the outside as like a phase one kind of thing. But overall, I think we took that piece of pine and turned it into something really, really cool. So getting a lot better at doing these bowls. So there will be more of these bowls in the future. You guys are watching this today, this morning, as a bonus video. It's March 14th of 2024. You guys are watching this on the 15th of March, 2024. So really cool bowl, real cool concept. Happy with how it turned out. So hope you guys liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. And see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.